Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there, if it makes you feel any better, I just checked the weather in my hometown, and we got 11 degrees on them. So, bask in the warmth. Sun's out, blue sky. It's a beautiful day, actually. I aim to stick up for cold weather. I've always been a little confused why people hate it so much, because you're always able, almost always, to be warm enough. You just have to put on more clothes. Just have to dress for it, and then you can be okay. But the opposite, when it's too hot, even taking every stitch of clothing off doesn't make you cool. Doesn't. So I'll go with too cold before too hot any day. And obviously this is also coming from a postmenopausal woman who by nature runs hot. I sleep with a fan on in the middle of winter. I do. Okay, I am avoiding, and I think I'm going to be avoiding. Here's the problem. My answer is going to surprise you, I'm sure. Donald Trump. That's the problem. And as the saying goes, he's living rent-free in all of our heads. And he's dominating the news cycle. You can't get away from him. And he is so clearly one of the most awful human beings that I've ever been aware of. When I think of awful human beings I've actually known in my life, there's not a one that can come even close to him. And so I just want to reiterate that what is so frightening and dispiriting right now is not him as much as it is all of these people who we live next door to and amongst, our fellow countrymen and women, who think he is somehow a leader, a man to be admired. That's when my head explodes. I can comprehend the horribleness of him, of one man. I cannot comprehend, no matter how many pieces I read or how many psychological treatises that try to explain, I cannot get my head around how so many are willing to see him in a positive light. They see him and they see a leader. God Almighty. And more than that, the fact that he has, this awful human being has totally single-handedly, well, with the aid and abetance of Fox News, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, he has literally commandeered one of our only two political parties, half of the political parties in the country. The Republican capitulation, the ongoing capitulation to him, the Republican establishment, the ones who know how horrible he is and yet do not have the courage, character to stand against him. That too is what frightens me. It's sort of like learning a lesson that you don't want to know. I always thought that as I lived longer and got older, I would begin to comprehend a little bit better how the world works, why things are as they are. And boy, I think I'm starting to get some of those lessons in my old age. And they are not lessons I want to know. I don't want to know these truths. I don't want to know truths about people's cravenness. I don't want to believe that people are so easily hoodwinked and or who just happily embrace evil. I mean, history, if you read history, you know humans are humans, and they were humans 500 years ago, and they were humans 100 years ago. So we know. So now that I'm seeing what humans are, now I can understand a little bit better why history is the bloodbath that it is. God. I just... Who said? Oh, it was Anne Frank. I said, whoever said, I believe people are good. Who said that? Well, she said that, right? Well, look what people did to her. I don't know. And to see also about humans that the stronger emotions, the ones that those who want to manipulate people go for, are the worst ones, right? Anger, hate, fear. The people who want to pull people in and lead them so often employ, because it works, all the negatives. All of our negatives, because they're so powerful. Hate, fear, anger, envy. Can you imagine a politician getting anywhere talking about love, compassion, I don't know. So I hope you've seen it. It's just out. And if you haven't, you will. Unsurprisingly, the antidote to that horrific propaganda video that Trump put out that so sickened me, called God Made Trump. Is that what it's called? It was the ripoff of a speech by Paul Harvey to a conference of farmers in which he used that. That was the structure. God needed somebody to tend to his creation. And so God created the farmer. And on he went. And the Trump folks picked that up and put out that horrific video. And now we have the Lincoln Project, that group, I think, comprised of former Republicans who are gunning for Trump for what he did to their party and what he's doing to our country. And they've now put out their version. And it's called God Made a Dictator. And they do the same. It's exactly the same. Boy, Paul Harvey, too bad he's dead. He should be getting like so many residuals for that speech. God made a dictator. And wow. And the video is, of course, of dictators and Trump and what dictators do and what Trump has done. And it's powerful stuff. And wondrously, of course, it's Trump who has provided the video for it. He's wonderfully generous in that way, that his utterances can be pulled together and repurposed against him so readily. So you should look for it. It's the Lincoln Project. They've got it out on, social media. I'm sure it will be all over the place. Here's one line. God said, "I need a man who failed in everything but theft and broken promises, to live in a golden palace and convince the poor he serves their needs." So God made Trump. It's so easy. I mean, it's so easy to denigrate him. And yet, as I said, so many embrace him. Those are the people I'm afraid of. And they like that, because I understand a big part of it is the hate and the rage that he has stoked in their hearts. A lot of it is for people like me. I have many things that they hate. I have female genitalia. They don't like women. I'm not Christian. That's another big no-no. My politics tend toward the liberal end of the spectrum. And I'm college educated. And I value education and facts and thought. And they hate me. I was reading about some of these Republicans and fingernail, and I'm taken by the fact that the Senate Republicans, many of them clearly are not Trumpers, but even they now are starting to fall in line. I forgot where I read it. I think it was The Atlantic, that one senator, I think he's Utah, not sure. I think I'm sorry, I don't know. His name is Rish. He has been one of the strongest voices in the Senate on either side of the aisle for the importance of us standing with Ukraine. So he's a Republican who obviously never got the memo that the Republican Party now aids and abets Putin's Russia. And he has been, just really mighty in speaking out about the importance of not letting Ukraine down, of not making Vladimir Putin and Xi happy, which of course is what Trump and his minions totally want to do. And yet, I couldn't believe it. How silly of me. He endorsed Trump, I think yesterday. Fell in line. He endorsed the guy who is absolutely opposed to helping Ukraine, even though that's something this Republican senator cares about and says is vital to our national security. He fell in line, just like all the others. What cowards! Republican senators who understand the value of NATO, who understand the value of fighting for our climate. They're endorsing Trump, a president who they know intends to destroy NATO if he can, because he is essentially a Russian agent. I'm having trouble coming to terms with reality here, with the unmasking of the extraordinary cowardice, rampant cowardice. Wow. No wonder that book John Kennedy wrote, that did he win a Pulitzer, I think, for it? Profiles in Courage. No wonder it was, it was short. That was not a big book. Okay. I've told you before, one of my favorite writers is a guy named Tom Nichols. I believe he was a Republican as well. I don't. All of the guys who used to be Republicans now are now my go-to folks. I guess maybe because they know and I'm loath to use this word, but they know the enemy, and consequently, when they say things, I listen. And I think he puts it out pretty well. So rather than have me bumbling and mumbling and reusing words left and right, send me some synonyms for cowardice. Cowardice, cravenness. I'm absolutely blanking. But I'd like to have more adjectives in my quiver because that is, to me, the most startling aspect of this unhappy reality that I'm having difficulty digesting. Back to Tom Nichols. The Republican base actively embraces Trump's grievances. It emulates his pettiness. It supports his childlike inability to accept responsibility. These people are not sighing in resignation and voting for the lesser of two evils. They're getting what they want because they too are set on one thing: on revenge. These voters are not settling a political score. Rather, they want to get even with other Americans, their own neighbors, for the humiliation that many of them feel since swearing loyalty to Trump. He goes on to say a lot of people, especially in our media, have a hard time accepting this simple truth, that it's about revenge. It's what Trump has, either brilliantly or just because he's tapped into this. He is. I mean, if you could see the embodiment of a person's most horrific aspects, he embodies this awful stuff that is roiling in the guts and hearts and heads of so many furious Americans. Nichols said millions of Americans have become so resentful and detached from reality that they have plunged into a moral void, a vortex that disintegrates questions of politics or policies and replaces them with heroic fantasies of redeeming a supposedly fallen nation, which is another way of saying they've lost their fucking minds. And he goes on to say, if you want numbers, look at these poll numbers. A third of Republicans agree that violence might be necessary to save the country. And the violence, understand, is not against some foreign enemy. The violence is against you. He says the words of Trump supporters are even more unnerving. He goes on to quote David French, who he notes lives in MAGA country, grew up there, is a practicing Christian. And French said this: you can go to social gatherings here in the South and hear people whisper to friends, don't talk about politics in front of Dad. He is out of control. Well, you don't have to, the South, it can be anywhere now. French also notes this. He says, I know that rage and conspiracies aren't unique to the right. I was a lawyer, and during my litigation career, I frequently faced off against the worst excesses of the radical left, but never before have I seen extremism penetrate a vast American community so deeply, so completely, and so comprehensively. And yes, that is why I am afraid. I don't know. These voters are unable, much like Trump himself, to accept what's happened over the last several years. Well, I feel their pain, as I feel the same way. I can't friggin' believe what's happened either. But what's amazing is that we're both looking at each other. Anyway, Nichols finishes with this. We are fooling ourselves if we think that the coming year will be just another peaceful competition between two political parties. Well, I don't know anybody who thinks that. Trump wants payback. And so do millions of voters who have no one to blame for their sense of humiliation but themselves. Well, thank you, Pat. She came up with panty waist. That is a for cowardice. Right. Panty waist. Wonder where that came from. My gosh. Okay, got a caller in the door. Hello. Hello.
Hey, how you doing? The last time we lied, did you think that the Republican Party weren't crazy then? Did you think? I mean, were they high energy? They were ready to vote for Trump. Do you think it's changed? I mean, I don't get it. You still have the same amount of people. And you're saying you had more. I am not sure of that, because if you look at the Iowa poll, it doesn't show that. It shows
no. I know. I know.
50% that don't really want him.
No, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. I was thinking about you today, and thinking about how you say he ain't going to win. Here's what I think. I agree with you that in a head-to-head with Biden, more Americans are going to clearly vote for Biden. They will. I do believe Biden versus Trump is a Biden win. Here, though, is what I am saying. We still are stuck with all of these people who will not accept that loss, who will see it only as vindication of everything they've believed and signed on to, who will only be wanting more vengeance, more payback, will feel more humiliated, and they're not going anywhere. What are we going to do with these tens of millions of Americans who would destroy the country? They would destroy it.
I think they always were there. I don't think they ever left. It's not a new thing. I just think they come out of the woodwork more because Trump gave them, the stage.
Well, I don't disagree with that either. I don't disagree with that either. You're right. They've always been there. If you really know our history, this hardcore of sort of fascistic, white nationalist, anti-democratic parts of America, it's a big part, has always been there, at least a third. But they've generally, yes, been tamped down. Though, they never had a president before. Not like this. And a president who knows how to, rile them even further. I don't know if once they've tasted this sense of empowerment, if they crawl back under their rocks or shut up. I don't know. And given the, social media and the ability to organize, I just don't see it going back to, the way it was.
They hate the Democrats. So it don't matter. It could be Trump. It could be anybody. DeSantis. They could latch upon any of them, as long as it's not a Democrat. And they hate Democrats. They hate our policies. They hate everything about us. And that's why they're going to vote the Republican.
Yeah. It's like I don't disagree with what you say. I just am fearful of the fact that he has wounded, these people have wounded us in a way that will prove lasting. I don't know.
Yeah, it will.
That's my concern. Okay. I mean, it's odd. We often sound like we're, not agreeing, but I think we do agree.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Margaret says this is what the Civil War felt like. Yeah, I suppose. Oh, speaking of the Civil War, as we know, Nikki Haley, who had said that failed to come up with slavery as a cause of it, she's now said in the last 24 hours the following, quote, "We've never been a racist nation." Incredible. She has also said she will vote for Donald Trump. The Republicans that you thought were still possibly Governor Sununu, New Hampshire, he says he'll vote for Trump. He's a nominee. You can count almost on one hand the number of Republican office holders who have had the courage to say, "I will not." Even Chris Christie, in leaving the field, would not say that he would vote for Biden. And to not vote for Biden is essentially voting for Trump. Sitting it out is not a possibility. It's not the choice of a person who realizes what the stakes are. I saw a tweet or something today that some guy wrote, which is so true. I was talking yesterday about, I am so sick and tired of the New York Times and the Washington Post and everybody. They're always framing things, trying to understand these Trump voters. And all they ever have you ever seen any articles trying to understand Biden voters? Some guy, posted something like 81 million people voted for Joe Biden, and the media never talks to a one of them. What is that about? The media amplify all of them. They just continue to amplify the words, the grievances, the insanity, the inanity of the losers. And I just, God, I don't know. Sorry. Jeez. A reminder, though, and I said this the other day, if you look at who the Republicans of Iowa, God help us, have voted for in the past, they vote for losers, left, right, and center. They're just constantly voting for losers. They voted for Rick Santorum. See how far he went. They voted for Ted Cruz over Trump. Yeah. In fact, they have not voted for a winning candidate, someone who went on to win the presidency in, I guess, a quarter of a century or something. And now the Iowa Democrats, on the other hand, have picked winners. Not consistently, but they helped propel Obama. You know, there's this again thing I read that got me thinking, and let me find it here. It said, if I could find it here, it said this. It's talking about, and I'm sorry, I again don't know where I got this. It's talking about this idea of American exceptionalism and how that concept got perverted or misunderstood. It's sort of like the idea of American freedom got distorted, I would argue, and was never clearly, or not in my lifetime, clearly understood. So many people see freedom as license. But this little snippet I pulled out, again, not knowing the author, and I'm sorry, is says this, that the epidemic of discouragement in America is rooted in mistaken ideas of American exceptionalism. And they go on to say the cultural right, the right wing, the right folks on the spectrum, they are nostalgic for a past that never existed, when a supposedly homogeneous nation enjoyed unprecedented peace and prosperity. And on the other side, the left constantly seeks to correct a past of unrelieved violence and oppression. I think both those statements are true. And I want to say that neither, going full bore on either, on the right or on the left, is absolutely not the answer. I mean, when I encounter people on the left who would choke on their own spittle before they would say anything positive about this country. And they're wrong. I mean, this country is an incredible study in imperfection, in not living up to its own ideals. All of that, yes. And we need to know our history, to look at it. But it is, they want to hold this country to a standard that no country, let's get real. The left's unwillingness to see the good, to see the progress in the American experiment, and the right's refusal to see the reality of the American experiment are putting us in a very, very difficult position. And somewhere between those two, the people on the right living in some friggin' dream world that doesn't exist, and the people on the left living in a hellhole that is also not an accurate description. I can't take it anymore. And I respond to myself, tough. Tough. You can't take it anymore. Because that's the way it's got to be. You're going to take it. There is no other possibility. I was going to talk about immigration today, but I don't have the stomach at the moment. Last night, I looked at a picture of the two children who were drowned with their mother as the Texas officials stood there, did nothing, and prevented the feds from doing anything. I looked at a picture of this brother and sister. Beautiful little children. And I thought, God, think of all the people who look at those two beautiful children whose mother was desperately trying to give them a future. And they see only people who are poisoning the blood of the country. How sick do you have to be? Have a call? Hello?
Hello, Lynn?
Yes, hi.
Hi, it's Beth. How are you?
I'm okay, Beth.
After that. It's funny. Years ago, Howard Stern said about the whole Trump voter, he said, but he used to socialize with Trump before Trump got into politics.
Right.
And he said, I don't hate Trump, but I hate every single one of you fuckers who voted for him. Like, what is wrong with you? And I mean, he went on a whole thing, and I thought, yeah, I hate that person. But as we're entering into these early days of 24, and we've had this conversation, what do you do? How do you act? When you go into a restaurant you go into, or a bar, or just someplace where, you recognize people, maybe not your social, but not friends. And you see them wearing the Trump stuff. Do you call them out on it? I'm almost to the point, before I didn't call them out on it, but now I feel like I'd be complacent if I said, if you like my wife and I, you can't vote for that.
I don't know.
What do you do?
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily helpful. It's not going to change their minds to, you walk into a restaurant, you see some people with Trump hats on. I wouldn't give them the time of day, but I would not confront them. I would not.
But even if they're people you've seen before, they know you, you kind of just have a peripheral conversation. You may know each other by a first name. But
well, you might just say, maybe, I don't know, if you're sure they won't pull out a gun and kill you. You might, say to them, what? You're kidding. Something like that, and keep walking. I don't know, but what good does it do? That kind of confrontation.
But I'm not talking like you're an idiot, which I really want to say, and you're a freaking racist and everything else.
So why say anything?
I kind of go back to the gay thing. Gay wasn't accepted till people started to know, you know what, I know gay people. Are they so addicted to, and this is my other thing, would Trump even have continued to be a Trump if he didn't have social media, which I don't think, I think he would have dwindled long ago, but social media and the tropes and all that stuff have helped propel.
Right.
But I know that's kind of where I am right now, where if it's somebody I at least kind of know on a first name basis, I'm kind of leaning towards kind of just saying, how can you vote for him?
Well, I think if it is somebody, I would think, so don't be in the closet. Don't just let it go.
That's exactly it. Don't be complacent. It's kind of my thought now, but it was just a question I had out as you started talking about these people. We were just joking, saying, if what they did on January 6th, and they can write it off as, they were just tourists, and we were kind of joking like, oh yes, every time when we went to London, we took a big defecation right on their Capitol. What are they gonna do this time? And that's where I kind of think, Democrats, I'm tired. That's the one thing I get so frustrated with the Democratic leadership, and I mean the party leadership. Mm-hmm. Not Hakeem Jeffries. I think he's actually really surprised.
I like him.
I think he has been masterful. He really has been. But I'm tired of the water gun going to the knife fight. And it's not like this is a surprise this time. We've had time to prepare. And, all I get are the Democratic mailers of, Trump, Biden, all this stuff because of the financial support. And it's like, guys, you need to do something different and better at your, I don't know, strategy wise, I'm a little concerned.
Well, I mean, I don't know. They need to, first of all, trumpet more what Biden has done while in office, the positive things that have impacted Trump voters in a positive way, all that kind of, they need to, brag more than they do, tout their success. But in terms of taking Trump down, I think Biden has, in, the speeches he's given recently, he's said what needs to be said, that it's democracy that is on the ballot, and that this guy is a danger.
It is, but to pull in those, let's just say, blue-collar independents, Lynn, this is where at this point, you need to start sending your secretaries, undersecretaries, whatever, to these areas, like whether it be Iowa, Nebraska, or Michigan. And let's just stay with the states he really needs: Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Georgia. Let's just stay within those. You need to get on those local news channels and say, and trumpet, well, this is why we're here, because of blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. You need more of a presence in those outlying areas. And right now, I haven't seen that, and that's, oh God help us. Anyway.
Oh God, it's not even, it's January. This doesn't end until November, and even then it won't end. You know, I don't know.
I don't know. I know. Well, we just have to take our blood pressure medication and make sure copious bottles of wine are stashed away.
Oh God, are you kidding me? I know. God help us.
Buy stock and liquor.
What's
Buy stock and liquor,
by the way? Joe Manchin, who, you know, you're in West Virginia, so you have responsibility for him. I've been seeing him talking about how he sounds like he's saying he's not voting for Biden.
Even more. First of all, he's never been, let's just be honest, he's never been a true Democrat, number one.
No.
Just with everything he's done, his family's done, and everything else. You know, this thing, it cracked me up when supposedly he and Romney were putting in papers to start some sort of like third party thing, or at least exploratory thing.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is where, you know, I wanted to put out there, West Virginia barely has 3 million residents, and you haven't listened to any of our concerns in the time that you've been a U.S. Senator. How are you're going on this thing, well, I need to represent, you haven't even represented us. When people say, hey, we don't want this pipeline going through these areas, but you know what? It brings in a lot of tourism dollars. You didn't listen. You rammed it down their throat. When people said, hey, you know what? We're going to have shortage in narcotics. Put the old Milan facility that made over 1 million tablets a month, get it under the War Powers Act. So in case we need, we could have had it. Didn't do it. These are the things that, you know, people really hate him in this state. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
So if he does run, don't be surprised if there's even a whisper he's hiding or going to do something. Hey, Democrats, get into West Virginia, start getting the dirt on Joe so you can wipe them out before they even declare.
Okay.
You know, yeah, and the scarier thing is Justice and Mooney. I think Justice will win because Mooney is ungodly scary.
Oh, yeah. No, Justice will win, and he's bad enough.
Yeah, but you know what?
I mean, that's a Republican vote.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be a Republican vote. But at least there's at least a little common sense. Like he reminds me at least of the old school Rhino Republicans type of thing with a little Louisiana corruption mixed in.
Gee whiz! Oh God!
I know. This is where we're at in our politics.
You and your wife need to move up to Pennsylvania where your votes will count.
Well, I hate to say it, we're kind of stuck here.
Okay.
Have a good day, Lynn.
I damn well intend to.
Good.
Okay.
Happy birthday too early. Bye.
Oh yeah, thank you. Bye. Yeah, birthday. Oy, thank God. Yeah. Amazing you people know when my birthday is. It's tomorrow. So old. Chris writes, NBC was interviewing caucus voters in Iowa, and one lady's response to a question was, if you don't like Trump, I'm not friends with you. I don't like you. All of my friends love Trump. Okay, so here's another. The thing is, that's the other thing that we're not talking about. Human psychology, God help us. And the fact that courage is in short supply in humans. The reality is that most people want to be included, want to be part of the group, the community. That's by far and away most people. And so if you're living in a rural area, or a small town area, I suspect a lot of people what I'm hoping for is that in the privacy of a voting booth, they don't vote for him. That they pretty much lay low, stay quiet, aren't waving the flag a lot, but don't let people know their true feelings. I don't know. It's very hard to be on the outside for most people, to be seen as an outlier or an idiot or an enemy or whatever, and that's how you'd be seen. And courage being wow, in such short supply. I was just remembering something I read about that Republican senator that I was speaking of earlier, Resch, who was so pro-Ukraine and just shriveled and endorsed Trump. His office was vandalized on January 6th, and somebody defecated in that office. One of the fine people that Trump sent to the Capitol that day. And to have had that level of a personal violation on that day by these people, and to then endorse the chief insurrectionist is a mind-boggling profile. Cowardice. Wow. So, we're almost out of time. Before we go, I see John Fetterman is writing a memoir. I wish he wouldn't. I wish he would. He's cashing in. It's going to be called Unfettered. Boy, he's building his brand. Now that he's got his voice back and some mojo back, Fetterman. I wish he'd just tend to business, but he's got a speech writer. I mean, not a speech writer. Somebody working with him who knows how to write, and he's got a book deal, and so our senator's got bigger things on his mind now. He's going to parlay his health issues, mental and physical, into a brand that a lot of people will be able to identify with. I don't know. I wish him no ill will, but I wish him no ill, but I just wish people would tend to business. Anyway, that'd be it for me. I'm done. And just dress in layers. That's all I'm saying. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.